Hey, look, folks, I know you come on for a specific reason. We could chat all day, and that is, of course, to talk about the upcoming Six Nations with our main man, Mr. Alex Corbisiero. First and foremost, how do you see this kind of competition going? We've had Ireland obviously win it in back-to-back, but then they've lost a bunch of players. Obviously, the likes of someone like Johnny Sexton. You've got a Scotland team who are on the rise, but they've lost their captain in Suoni Tuipulotu. England, where are they? Are Wales absolute dog? Where are Italy? Let's be honest. Give me a thing as to what I can lynch on to the Six Nations.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot's going to be found out in the opening week. I think if England go to Ireland and upset Ireland, then it's game's on, for England to win it, because they've got 3 home games and then they play Wales away. Wales are in a bit of a mess. You never know with the Welsh, though. You just don't know. But I would say that Wales are very much building still. Ireland are still, in my books, favourite because they have England and they have France at home. And just, the way they coach with Andy Farrell, they've still got Gibson Park, they've still got, Van der Fleer, they've still got Hugo Keane, they've got superstars in their team. I think the team is, if I was going to put money on it, I think France are going to be the ones to beat, just because I've been waiting to see Dupont and Intermac back together and firing on all cylinders. Ramos at the bat. I think they're, so when I watched the World Cup in 2023, and everyone thought France were going to win, and when Intermac got injured, I was like, they ain't going to win it now. Because I know that Dupont gets all the headlines and is superb. Those two together are different gravy. And when you have a superstar 9 and a superstar 10 in the same team, it's just different gravy. And Gilbert is a very good 10, a very good player. But I think those two together are arguably the best partner, halfback partnership in the world. So I think France are sort of in a position where they're probably on the strongest footing.
I'd say, Fodes, I think you're spot on there. I think Intermac and Dupont, and really, you touched on it briefly, but what that gives you gives you Ramos at 15 in his best position as well. So then you immediately get that 9, 10, 15 spine where you have absolute jouet, money-kicking game, just in cohesion and synced with each other and playing that sort of same style of rugby. And then you can add your a Penno or whoever you add on the wing and the versatility. I agree. I think I favour Ireland. Yeah. As they have France and England at home. I think that really sets them up well. Like, I think Ireland probably wobbled a little in the autumn by their standards. Yeah. But I also think there was, some change in the side, a bit more blooding of depth. No Tag Furlong and co like that can be, a big blow to the team. So I still think Ireland are probably going to win it. I just think unless England can upset them early and that shakes the confidence and everything of them at home, and because they didn't have the best autumn, it snowballs. I think Ireland hit the ground running. Probably the question for me is, who do they pick at 10? They start, is it Pendergast or do they go with Crowley, who was fantastic against Saints? And then probably as well, the only other difference I think is that Leinster have kind of been changing their identity a bit. So usually Ireland have so much continuity because you basically take 11 to 13 of the starting Leinster side and transplant them. But Leinster this year have gone a little bit away from the true DNA of Ireland, especially with Nienaber there, and been a bit more of a defensive-based side. So I'm curious to see if you still get that same continuity of like those lads coming in, or have they just had so many reps together in that Ireland environment that they turn it on? It reminds me, last year we were question mark, could Ireland shake off the World Cup? Were France going to be on a revenge tour? It was in Marseille or whatever, and Ireland went out there and absolutely lit them up. And so for me, I think Ireland at home against England, there's no way they won't be up for that. You know what it's like playing the Irish. They hate us. Like they're mental about it.
I agree with that. But the only thing I would say about England, if England lose against Ireland, then we have Scotland coming to Twickenham. And if they lose that one, then heads are going to roll. People are going to start getting fired. People are going to get, and when you have a change of management and a new coach come in, it means the heads roll of players. So England probably have the most to play for in this tournament. Lions tour's just around the corner. I was talking a lot of England players up before the autumn international saying, listen, if this guy has a good game, he'll be in the Lions squad. And I felt that if England really had a good autumn, regardless of, as long as they didn't have a terrible Six Nations, I thought, there'd be 10, 12 guys going on the plane. I think at the moment, there's probably 5 or 6, and that's about it. And so I think there's a lot to play for England. I think there's more than, there's going to be more pressure than ever on them to get it right and produce results. And you mentioned it, Corbs. I think it's so important when you have a 9 and 10 who are settled. And you saw it with Johnny Sexton over the years, having him in that 10 shirt, he really did run Ireland and how Ireland played, and everything went through him. He was the heartbeat of the team. Ireland don't have that anymore. They're still trying to figure out that really key position. They're lucky that they've got Gibson Park, who is an absolute stud, and he's playing brilliant rugby. But, I played 9 a bit myself growing up and got my first cap for England there. And, Will, you played 10 as well for a majority of your playing career. 9 doesn't have the control that a 10 does on a game. And that's where I worry about Ireland. And I also, and people will give me so much stick for saying this as well, is I think a lot of those guys have got eyes on the Lions already. They,
Interesting.
Their coach, I think their head coach has probably got eyes on the Lions tour as well. He's looking at other players and looking at other things. And,
the
Lions tour is a big deal.
Is he? Faz has stepped away this year.
No, it's Simon Easterby.
Simon Easterby's technically
Again, that's another real negative thing for me for Ireland, because Farrell is really a beater of that Irish drum. Do you know what I mean? And he always had a chip on his shoulder about being with England, not being successful, them getting rid of him, signing for Ireland, being a hero. And he probably always had that thing in his head, like, I'll show them. You know what Faz is like. He's one of those 100%.
Guys. But the only thing that makes me question that is it's because England won it last time. And obviously, knowing the Irish, that was the one loss they had in the Six Nations last year. I just think they're going to be right on it. And I think it's going to have to take a special performance from England, a bit like it did at Twickenham last year. I think they're going to have to go into the cauldron and pull one out. And I'm assuming they're going to go Marcus Smith at 10, Alex Mitchell at 9, which is probably the best recipe they have of trying to, create a game plan or the ability in attack to score enough. Because I think Ireland will score. I think the way they move the ball, they keep possession, they're frustrating. Unless England have a dynamite day with the Curries and they're just whacking everything and slowing them down to a point that it really nullifies them, I feel like England's going to have to play to get the result over there.
My biggest peeve with English rugby right now is that they don't have an identity. You don't know what we're trying to do. We're trying to release our speedsters. Are we trying to dominate them in the scrum and in the driving maul? Are we trying to be turnover merchants? Are we trying to be strong ball carriers? Are we playing a kicking game? You just don't know the identity of English rugby at the moment. And when we played Corbs, we didn't dominate the Six Nations, but we were always 1 or 2. It was normally between us and Wales. Ireland were, the inner thereabouts. But we had an identity. We knew we wanted to play the game. Whereas I just feel we have all this talent and that England just don't know how to put it all together. And it's very hard for, a player to come into a team. Their defence is a mess as well. The fact that we've lost Felix Jones and they've got another guy and when you change defensive coach, it always gives you an excuse. Oh, we got a new defensive coach in. We're changing the way we do it. But how long can you do that in professional rugby? You can't. You can't make excuses up. And so, I'm fed up of hearing the excuses from England. They've got the talent. They have to find identity on how they want to play the game. Are we going to be a jouet team and let Marcus Smith run ragged? We've got some speedsters on the end. We've got great centres. We've got great ball carriers in the forwards and handlers of the ball. So, I would like to see us really stamp, watching us in the autumn, nothing made me more sick than watching us throw away that game against New Zealand. Because what we did is we got 10 points up and thought, right, let's just hold on to this lead. And the way we played up to that moment was great rugby, and we scored tries and, we were marching up the field. And then we're against one of the best counter-attacking teams in the world who need the ball to do some magic. We just kicked everything to them. Brought George Ford on, kicked the ball to them, and they went, great. We only need 10 minutes to get this back, and they scored 2 tries and beat us. And I was like, what the... what the heck are we doing there? It was just embarrassing.
Foes, let me just come in because I feel like we could just keep going this. I'm trying to police where we go with next. And I want to ask you guys, because you talk about Lions and stuff like that. I feel like you haven't even mentioned about Scotland. And Scotland obviously coming in from a fantastic 2024. They've been hit with a couple of bad injuries, in particular, of course, their captain I mentioned earlier in Tuipulotu. Just give me, from your sense of things, could this still be a good year for Scotland, or is it like they've lost their captain now, that's game over?
I genuinely believe he's one of the best players in the world at the moment, and it's a massive loss for them that he's gone, because he was playing awesome for club. He's been playing awesome for country. He's written in to go on the Lions tour for me and be the starting 12. And, if he was fit and Scotland had a really good Six Nations, I could see their whole back line going. I think they have got Blair Kinghall's been awesome at 15. Van der Veer on the wing has been awesome. Ali Price is great at 9. Finn Russell is the Finn Russell. They are stacked. But it is a massive loss losing him. Massive. And with Scotland as well, not to do any disservice to their forwards, but if their forwards just gave them parity in the scrum and line out, that back line did the rest, with those Mavericks at 9, 10, 12, and then their back three.
Sorry, folks, to interrupt. My issue with Scotland is I think they can beat anyone on their day, but I have yet to see them put a consecutive run of games together.
Yeah, that's always been said.
Bang, bang, bang. 4 of their best in a row. They usually have 2 belters, 1 shocker, and 1 maybe okay. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that to me is really what's held them back from winning this Six Nations, because there's been so many years where they've absolutely had the team, they've had the belief, but they just lose. They have the dud game, which means that then they get to maybe 3 of 5 or potentially 4 or 5, and they're not in the mix with a France or an Ireland to actually win the thing. And so I think for me, that is just a question, because can they go back to back, like knock off an England, knock off the next big dog if it's France or whoever they have, you know what I mean? Like those 2 wins in a row, I need to see that for me to go, I actually put them above England, because I feel like England just have a better way of scraping by. I think Scotland either are amazing or they're not.
I think Scotland have been very unlucky when they've run into form. In terms of that, normally what happens in the Six Nations, 1 or 2 teams run into form and they normally dominate the Six Nations. But sadly, Scotland have run into form when Ireland have been really, really strong, France have been really, really strong, and England have been in and out. So then you've got 4 good teams. And like you said, Corbs, you can't have, a good game, a poor game, an average game, a good game. You've got to have good game, good game, good game. And when you're in a mix where you've got one, strong other team in the Six Nations and another 3 or 4 teams in the development stages, you can scrape by the development stages and then pull off your one big game when you need it to win the Six Nations. And like you said, Scotland, for me, have just been unlucky because they've run into very informed teams. France and Ireland, have been right up with them. And although this is the best Scotland team we've seen for a while, it's also the best Irish team we've seen in a long time. It's also probably the best French team we've seen in a long time.
Let me just bring it then to, I guess, the wooden spoon, because I feel like we're literally talking about it already without actually talking about it. For any of our Welsh fans out there, or even Italian fans out there as well, is it a toss-up or is it Wales once again to struggle? Obviously, Warren Gatland's come out and said they go into this tournament always wanting to win it, but you can't help but feel that it's literally between them and the Italians for the bottom.
Yeah. Listen, if England's first 2 games don't go well, then they're in that bottom scrap as well. It all really depends on these first 2 weeks. But I would say, you look at the Welsh squad, you're not blown away. There's no one really standing out to be their superstar. There's no one they're really building the team around. They're still very much trying to figure things out. But Wales are Wales. They have the ability and the upset in them. Gatland's, Warren Gatland, and one of the greats for a reason. So I'm sure he'll have some tricks up his sleeve. I think they'll beat Italy. I do think Wales won't. There's too much on them just to win that one game. Not saying that it's their be-all and end-all, but I think there's going to be so much pressure on them to win that one.
Is it in Rome this year? I think it's in Rome this year, right?
Yeah. Well, it makes it much tougher. What happens though? And Corbs, have you played Italy away? So we played, and we played Italy away, and it was always an arm wrestle there. Do you know what I mean? They were never. I never felt we were ever in danger of losing, but they just made it scrappy, and it just becomes one of those ones. And you're like, oh, and we always ended up on the right end of those ones. But what? It's going to be a scrappy affair, and I think that might actually suit Wales a little bit.
I just feel like, I don't know, Italy, if they perform well early and they're at home, Stadio Olimpico, 60,000, and they think this is their game to actually go win, I could see them doing Wales again. Like, I think Wales are better than they were this time last year, and I thought even in the autumn there was definite areas that are starting to improve of their game. But I also think you've got to say Italy on their day are pretty mustard as well. Like they had some strong performances last year. Drew in France, one in Wales, and then I think had respectable outings and a couple others. I just don't know with Wales. They've added Adam Jones, which I think will help. He's a character and another good coach that will help improve that environment. I just think it's curious where this young group, like, how competitive they are. Like, do I think they have a future ahead of them? I think they've started to build a runway to where they want to go. I just don't know what speed they're going to hit the ground running at, the speed that the rest of the Six Nations is at.
I think Italy is a team that you can look at, though, and figure out a way to beat them. And I think you can go a little bit more old school. I think the way, you're playing away from home. I don't think you take their speedsters away from the game. You tighten things up. You bully them at the rucks and the mauls, driving line out, and go old school Welsh rugby. Just, bully them. And I think that's the way they're going to go. I think Gatland's going to be smart about that. I think if you play an open and loose game with Italy, then you got the chance of being ripped apart. And I think that's what Wales have to keep away from. If they go there with an intent to play a brand of rugby that they're not accustomed to, I think Italy will win that game. But I think that they're well coached and managed. Like you said, Adam Jones is going in there. He's going to be getting that scrum nice and tight. And I think they'll lean on a lot of old school, rugby morals.
Fodes, you mentioned, obviously, so they're talking about playing in Rome. Obviously, you mentioned about beating Bastareaud down the line, France. Corbs have got, no doubt, many great memory as well. I built it up earlier in the show, basically saying it really probably is. Outside of the World Cup, it's the best rugby tournament we have, the Six Nations. When you reflect on it, looking back on your times in the tournament, is there anything that really stands out of why it is so special?
Yeah, I just think that it is. We've all been to Twickenham and experienced that magic when the bus pulls up and the crowd line down it and you walk towards the line and you look up at Twickenham Stadium. It's like going into the bloody Colosseum and gladiators going to battle. And I used to love, it's one of the reasons why I went to America as well, as I love the way America treats sport in terms of its entertainment. And I always felt there was more entertainment around international rugby than, Premiership rugby or even the Champions Cup. And so I loved that. I loved, doing media. I remember I said something that really peeved off a lot of Welsh players when we were playing.
Remind us this. Come on, give us the story.
I said, I was, a young pup, 23 years old, sort of in the team as we're playing. It was in 2010, I think I said this as well. And I just said,
2011. Very beginning.
2011.
Yeah, you won on a Friday night. I made my debut the week after.
Exactly. And I remember that I said to the media, Wales are like England's little brother. They're annoying and, not as well funded, and basically they took off. It was a little bit out of context, but they took it badly. And I remember Alan Wynne-Jones smacking me late after I touched the ball down for a 22, and he said, "Not so little now, am I?" And I was like, "Right, I know what's going on." But in that game, the first pass that I got was an outside ball. Stephen Jones tried to come and smash me, and I didn't see him till late, and I sat him down and nearly knocked him out. And that was the tone of the game, mate.
That actually set the tone.
Fodes, let's be honest, you and the media hasn't always been a fantastic relationship, but that's another conversation.
I love that, though. I love that. And I think that we need more of it. I think we've got to do more of it. I think that the Premiership's in desperate need of it in England. I think we need characters. I think we need villains, heroes, rivalries, and really ham it up. That's what they do out here in America. And that's why, every week they're talking about some scandal. The Kansas City Chiefs are cheating and Josh Allen should be at the Super Bowl and Jalen Hurts is not the player. And the story of Saquon Barkley, who's gone from the Giants and now he's had the best season ever for a running back. You need those stories. You need them, whether they're good, they're bad. You need people talking about the game. And so I always believe that was missing. But, the Premiership Rugby was run by old farts. And so if you said the wrong thing, you didn't stick around too long. So maybe it cost me a few caps in the end. I don't know.
Corbs, I want to know what Fodes is like in an England changing room, in a locker room. Have you got any dirt on him?
Me and him are complete opposite. On the way to a test match, I'm fighting the nerves and a little nauseous. I'm getting excited, but I'm just battling to stay calm and not get too revved up, too whatever. You walk through, you get off the bus, you get in the changing room, you're trying to get your head on, you're trying to get all your stuff, you're about to go out for warm-up, you just look at Fodes. Fodes there with his iPad just playing racehorse gamble games. The last
risk.
Wanting to play cards every time.
Or fruit something or whatever. Fodes is just there nonchalant until it's about 2 minutes to go out to the match, and he's like, "Oh, all right," puts it in and just jogs out. Where I'm just up here just trying to stay focused.
Well,
he had this ability to just look like he didn't care or he wasn't phased, and then just jog on into it.
Do you know what as well, Corbs? The older I got in my career, the more I started to do like video analysis and worry about who I was playing and really pay attention to and the worse I got,
So you were becoming more professional and actually suffered.
Yeah, when I didn't care and I didn't know who I was playing against and I was just putting my boots on and running around playing rugby, that's when you got the best out of me. And as soon as I started, went into a leadership role and was like captain, vice captain and doing all that and more the experienced guy, and so I had to take it more seriously, be a role model. Dude, that's when... Last time I played for England, I was 28 years old, dude.
You tore it up, mate, at the back.
Fodes is probably one of the strongest backs I've ever seen in the gym, which maybe some wouldn't see.
I was going to say, when you gymmed.
Yeah. I'll say that he's not even there enough. And then what takes the piss the most is I'd see the guy eat 2 packets of biscuits.
Still be ripped.
And then just be absolutely shredded and strong as hell. And you're like, this is not fair. Like, we did
you're allowed a
long-term injury recovery together, and it was just demoralizing.
Yeah, so that is my memory of Corbs. Every time, in England, we get you in Pennyhill Park, you normally share rooms, but you always go and check on the boys. Whenever I went in Corbs' room, he's on the bed, he's doing some kind of knee rehab. Never leave his knee alone. He's always rubbing it or massaging it or got a band on it or whatever. And he's just in his head the whole time. I've got to get my knee sorted, and he's got to be good.
Hence, I burnt myself out at 27.
Mate,
oh, no.
Happens to the best of us, mate. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Guys, this has been phenomenal, Fodes. It's been so good having you on. Just before you go, I've got your predictions. I've also got Corbs' predictions. A quick reminder who you've gone. This is what you sent to me. You said France, Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales, Italy, in that order. Yeah. And then Corbs, you've gone for Ireland, France, England, Scotland, Italy, Wales. I guess what I want to know, maybe the first weekend.
I also sent you another one that said heart.
Wasn't interested in that one.
I said there was one of head and there's one of heart.
No.
In the heart, England are number one, but in the head.
Don't want to know about it. I don't want to know. I tell you what you can tell me, though, based off that, from both of you, is round 1. Just a reminder, it all kicks off on Friday. France taking on Wales. Then on the Saturday is Scotland, Italy, and that massive one, England versus Ireland. Quickly then, Fodes, I just want to know, who's taking those first games?
France are at home against Wales.
Correct.
France by 20.
I was going to say France by 20. It's exactly what was loaded.
France by 20.
Scotland, Italy?
Scotland, Italy. Is it Scotland or in Italy?
It's in Scotland.
Scotland by 24.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to wallop them.
Corbs?
Yeah, I think Scotland by... I'm going to go 15.
And then England, Ireland by 5.
I'd say Ireland by 12.
There you go. You both don't believe it.
It hurts my heart, but I just...
No, that's what I said.
I'm taking one answer and one answer only. You said Ireland. Ben Foden, you've been on the Rugby Rundown. Absolutely brilliant, mate. Wishing you well for the future. And, thanks for coming on.
Enjoyed it, boys.